I will give you 5 minutes to tell us the story of your life up to where you are. Then thereafter, I'll open the floor for members to ask you some questions or make some comments about what you are going to walk into in case we approve your nomination.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman and members, for this opportunity to present myself to this distinguished committee. Let me first start off by expressing my profound gratitude to His Excellency the President for nominating me to the office of Secretary to the Cabinet. This is indeed a life opportunity for me, for which I'm profoundly grateful. It is a great honor. Mr. Chairman and members, I am a first-born of 4 siblings, and I was born in Kovo in Imenti South, Meru County. And the reason for that was because my father, the late Geoffrey Cairo Wanjau, was one of the first early graduates of University of Nairobi, and he had just been sent on his first posting as the first African headmaster at Nkubu High School. As a result of his career movement, our family tended to move around Kenya quite a lot. And growing up, I ended up living within 7 counties of this country. I am married with 2 teenage daughters. This experience, as you can imagine, in my early years, comprised of quite a lot of moving around, making new friends and saying goodbye almost every 2 years of my school life. And this allowed me an opportunity to embrace Kenyans of all walks of life and to develop values of social justice, faith, resilience, and determination. I started my primary school life in Nanyuki and completed my standard 8 at Thika Memorial Church School in Kiambu County, in between having moved through a number of schools. In 1989, I went to Gandu Girls High School in Nyeri County, and upon completion of my Form 4, proceeded to University of Nairobi for a Bachelor of Laws degree, upon which I went to the Kenya School of Law for a diploma in law. So I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, 1997. That marked the beginning of my professional life with Muthoga Gaturu and Company, and after a year, I progressed to South Africa for my postgraduate degree, and I earned a master's in advanced corporate law and tax from the University of Cape Town. I happened to be in South Africa barely 4 years after its gaining independence, so I was a beneficiary of the Black Equity Employment, which was availed irrespective of citizenship, so long as one was Black. And that allowed me to spend a lot of time and work with KPMG in Cape Town, where I was involved in the demutualization of Old Mutual and the subsequent listing on the London Stock Exchange. Upon completion of my postgraduate studies, I came back to Nairobi, went again briefly into legal practice with Kirundi and Company, and then moved to PricewaterhouseCoopers in the tax department. That marked the end of my private sector career as I went into the regulator, the Communications Commission of Kenya, in 2001, and have had 22 illustrious years in the public service. During these 22 years, a lot happened, and if you will allow me, I will just go through some significant events. In 2005, I had the opportunity to proceed on international secondment to the UN in Geneva, and I spent some time there with the International Telecommunications Union as a regulatory expert. And the output of that was a toolkit that was designed to build capacity for regulatory staff globally, because the ICT sector was globalizing and growing very big, very fast, and there was the need to boost skills. This was a UN World Bank InfoDev project. Upon completion of this project, I did come back, and in 2006, I was nominated as the Kenya Fellow for the Eisenhower Fellowship, and I proceeded to the United States on a fellowship for international development. This allowed me to see what possibilities could lie if one exerted themselves to unlock policy possibilities. Upon return from the fellowship, I continued with my work, which involved policy and legislative reform, and I was engaged in developing draft policies and regulatory frameworks, which have formed the bedrock of the successful ICT sector in Kenya as we know it today. In 2018, I had the opportunity to chair the National Task Force for the policy for data protection in this country, and the output is the creation of the Data Protection Office that we know today, which is currently operational for about 2 years. While within the public sector, I rose, and the highest role that I performed was the Acting Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya for 2 years until a substantive Director General was appointed. As we speak, I serve as the Director of Legal Affairs and the Board Secretary. During my tenure as Acting Director General, Chair, I would mention that barely 6 months had passed when the COVID pandemic hit the world, and I therefore became a leader in a time of crisis. And as they say, never waste a crisis. And this marked an opportunity for me, for the ICT sector, to score certain successes for this country. COVID was a time of great destabilization, and one of the successes was the utilization of resources available in this country to enable economic stabilization, because in 24 hours, the economy moved from the office to the house. Learning moved from the school to the house. And this availed us an opportunity to discuss with the sector on how best we could enable them to carry the extended traffic over that period. And Mr. Chairman, it turned out that Kenya was the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to issue regulatory directives that enabled that support, and this was recognized by the United Nations. I also had a chance to chair the COVID-19 ICT Advisory Committee. This was a committee that tried to utilize ICT innovations for COVID, and I'm proud to say that out of the about 700 innovations that were tabled before us, 85 were identified and were utilized for contact tracing and other health measures within this country. From a people perspective, given the circumstance of the day...
1 more minute.
That's in order. Given the safety consequences of the day, a lot of time was spent to provide safety and security. Mr. Chairman, I do recognize the great weight, as you have mentioned, that this role carries. I recognize the high level of accountability that it comes with, and indeed, I do hope that this exposure, this background, makes me a suitable fit for this role if appointed to the role. Indeed, as I close, I wish to indicate that I resonate deeply with an economic transformation agenda that recognizes that when the tide rises, it rises for all. Indeed, the tide should rise for all. Thank you.